Okay, this is my video essay for adaptations, of which I am covering TF2 from the games to the comics. This is probably going to be very rough, very scuffed, likely unedited, at least on the voice part, and then the background of this is probably just going to be raw gameplay footage or Uncle Dane videos playing without the audio. But still, this is something I'm passionate about. This is something I care about. So, Mr. Johnston, I know you're listening to this for the assignment. If you have not already done this, go read the TF2 comics. At least the catch-up comic, so you can understand the characters. It is near impossible to follow along without any prior knowledge of TF2 or the current story of TF2. So, if you're still listening to this now, I'm going to assume that you've read it, or read the comics, or at least you have a decent understanding of the games, or the game. So, let's get started. So, my main hypothesis is, how do the comics turn effectively a cluster of lovable idiots that the mercenaries are in the game into actually human seeming people, to where they feel you can sympathize with them, and they're not just nameless killers, that they're just there to be visual. How do they turn into more than that? How do they turn into effectively people? I want to discuss that. So, as with every game, the most important thing is the characters. So, first off, we have the 9 mercenaries. We have Jeremy Willis, the scout, who runs fast. We have Soldier, John Doe, who just shoots rockets. We have Pyro, name unknown, and former mayor, friends with the mayor of Pyroland. We have Heavy, also known as McKaylee, who loves his family and loves his miniguns. We have Tavish the Groot, who is the demo, who loves explosives and missing an eye. Del Conger, long line of engineers. Medic, stole man's spine while he was still alive. Sniper, he's professional. Professionals have standards. And then there's Spy, who knows Scout's mother pretty well, to say the least. However, other than 9 mercenaries, there are 2 main characters. Mrs. Pauling, who is the secretary, or really assistant, to the next person, who is the administrator, who is a shrouded, mysterious one, whose whole thing is that she is the announcer, and she sends the mercenaries off to secure Australia, which I'll come back to later. So, the plot of the games is, the game at least, is really simple. It's 2 brothers just fighting over pits of gravel. They each have half of the world's supply of gravel. They're fighting to get their brother's other half so they can be the superior brother. Now, this is the last warning that if you have not read the comics, go read them. Okay then. So, starting with Ring of Fire, the very first one, at least in the modern comics. It opens up immediately after the events of the main game, with the main gravel war between Redmond and Blue Truck being over, as both brothers are dead. This is shown in one of the update comics. I believe it's Blood Brothers, where Grayman stabs them in the back. But that's not really that important. What is important is that Saxton Hale, who, if you've read the catch-up comic, you know who he is. Basically, he's just the CEO of Manco now. Gets challenged by Grayman to fight for the fate of Manco, as it's a company policy that you can challenge the CEO to a duel. Gray wins, as he nominates his daughter to go fight instead and hail his morals. So this is kind of big. Hale's whole thing is that he loves punching things. Like, so much so there's an entire mode called Versus Axon Hale, where the whole idea is that it's effectively a boss fight, but you're the boss. And yet, despite all that, even though Olivia is like actively trying to punch him, Saxon just won't fight back. Even in the game, he can be shown as kind of like a brash, crude, crass idiot. He still has a heart. And so, now, because Gray Man took over Manco, the administrator runs off. She goes into hiding and wants Pauline to do the same. This is not usual at all. The administrator is usually very secretive, but more like control room kind of secretive. Now, she is just running away, which is very unusual for a character. So, Soldier, usually just being a dumb, stupid idiot who can't even usually see forward because his helmet's in the way of his eyes, is doing celebrity tours when he meets some old women who Soldier basically almost insults for not calling a cemetery full of stars when it's a military cemetery. Because Soldier thinks he served. He did not. So, Soldier then proceeds to break into Tom Jones' house, snap Tom Jones' neck, walk up the room to Jones's roommate Marasmus, who is from want to say it's from Gargoyles and Gravels update. It's a wizard who is Soldier's former roommate. They used to know each other, and then Soldier just kicked Marasmus out of Marasmus' own house. And yeah, but already we can see a massive difference between the usually just stupid ass Soldier in the games who has things such as Marasmus, I will stick a foot up your ass, or I will pull a rabbit out of your ass, to one that actually leads towards one that respects the dead. It's like a more compassionate Soldier, but you can tell it's just by the mannerisms, it's still the same character. So Miss Pauling, who is now disguised as a cop, comes to arrest Soldier, and then tells him that Team Fortress is reassembling after the dismantling of the Gravel Wars. So Pauling doesn't do this. The closest thing we've ever gotten to date of her doing something similar outside the comic series was Expiration Date, and even that's its own whole thing. But she is much more on the side of giving the mercenaries connecting the mercenaries with their contracts, or going to clean up a site after the payload got delivered or something blew up. She's the one on cleanup duty or logistics. She's not often in the field. So the fact she even knew where Soldier was is insane. It then it just then goes to a company called Frontier Engineering, which the name was kind of important because there's an entire series of weapons for the Engineer called Frontier Justice. But that's more of a Engineer thing, which this is more than likely a subtle reference to, or to the map Frontier. So, we see a certain gas mask arsonist. He's the current CEO, but this is where we get our first view into Pyro Vision in the comics, where we get to see what Pyro sees, because Pyro can't see the world properly. In the games, this is just done by applying like a rainbow filter and turning all the flame particles into bubbles, which just makes him seem more delusional. Whereas even Pyro's first introduction panels in the comic adds more depth to it, where it shows that Pyro, they see the world as like, oh, it's just shapes and noises, and then the fire is like the brightness. It's what brings color to the world. It removes all the gray. It's not just a case of, oh, this person just thinks they're helping people. No, it's much more than that. They see the world as gray. They don't see it as happy. They see it as gray, and they see fire as the way to bring joy to it. And then, even more so important is the fact that Pyro never speaks. Pyro always goes like, always makes some like muffled noises. But Pyro in the comics doesn't say a thing. Which is the fact that a character who is obviously has few comprehensible words can be adapted, keep the character alive to be adapted, stay voiceless, stay faceless, stay nameless, to a medium where words and images are key. I think that's kind of a telling thing. So, now that the group has got Pyro back, and he's joined up with Pyro has joined up with Soldier and Pauling, the three of them go to get Demo, who, after being retired from the Gravel Wars, is sitting on his couch watching TV dramas, which he is the only one in his family that can do that. But he's also doing it with his possessed sword, the Islander, which, read one of the Halloween comics. I'll look it up later. Read one of the Halloween comics to figure out why he lost his eye. If I remember specifically, it's the Abominomicon issue. But the Islander is complaining about, the inaccuracies of a freaking ghost defense attorney thing, saying that the prosecution rest in peace, and just how wrong it is, because it's a possessed sword. It obviously knows ghost. Which, off the bat, the Islander is a weapon in the game. All it does is occasionally mumble heads. It just mumbles the word heads occasionally, sometimes. It's a fully fledged character here. It's not a... It takes the idea of if it can speak, it can feel. It doesn't matter if it's just a possessed sword, it's still a character. It's still important to Demo Man. So that's why it's here. It's still an important part of the character. So, Demo Man's mom decides to bonk him on the head with her cane to basically tell him to go open up the door, and then tells him, and I quote, it might be a job, Tavish, and Lord's knows, yeah, he could use one. I can't do a good Gaelic accent. And then he is greeted by Pauling, who offers Demoman his old job back, being a demolitions expert, and thrilled, Demoman immediately just puts on his flak jacket and then gets ready. So, something interesting is that Demoman, his whole family, his whole family is blind except for him, where he's a Cyclops, he says himself. He is a one-eyed Cyclops, or I should say he only has one eye left of his two. But he basically only, he knows gunpowder, he knows drinking, he knows working. His whole family, it's a major plot point, it's actually part of how he lost his eye, is his family basically, from the moment he could possibly even go to work, his family's pressuring him to get jobs. So the fact that he is just sitting there doing nothing is telling. It expands on his life. It brings meaning to this. It brings meaning to Demoman. It's basically, even though this character has all this pressure on him, he just can't. He can't find anything. He lost the one main thing that he enjoyed. So all the group is now, they're all riding in a car, and they're on the way to go get Heavy from Siberia on the ride to the airport, which, granted, this is the 1960s, so it's going to be quite a while. Pyro accidentally cuts off Soldier's hand. This is kind of important. This happens a lot with Soldier. I don't know why, it just does. His hand just gets cut off quite a lot. But the group stops at a local hospital, and Soldier gets his hand sewn back on. And then it's kind of here where at least I consider to be one of the major story parts is introduced in the form of Pyro's puppy. Now, the reason why I call this little Dalmatian such a key point is that it's a dog. It's basically, it's this idea that if this arsonist can care for a dog when it loves to burn things down, I think that's kind of revealing about the personality. Because how can this person that loves fire so much somehow manage to keep almost anything else alive when all it wants to do is just burn everything down? So that's why, even though it lacks an official name, I'll be calling the puppy Chekhov. So, with that, we go to the final panel of the first comic, where we see mugshots of Spy and Scout on the newspaper that Pauline is holding, saying "Merc scums to hang." So, with that, that's the end of the first comic. However, it already establishes a decent upcoming conflict with the idea of having to rescue Scout and Spy while also needing to get Heavy. And it also raises questions about where our sniper, spy, and engineer. But it still sets up for the next issue. However, the next major issue is or I wouldn't say next major. The next issue is important, but only a little bit of it. It gets kind of generic. However, the initial parts of it are really important. So, Book 2, Unhappy Returns. It immediately starts out with a flashback to Saxon Hale fighting Panthers with his partner Maggie. I wouldn't say partner, I'd say more so his friend Maggie. Only to be interrupted by this arrogant, just general jerkbag, Charles Darling, who decides to kidnap all of their Panthers and to put them into a new type of dungeon called a zoo. Which, the main point of this flashback is partially to establish this idea of that Saxon just loves to kind of fight animals, and he sees it as like a fair fight, basically just like fight hordes of them. But he also loves to collect trophies. So the idea of just animals just sitting there, just whimpering away, he seems that as like kind of cruel. He wants to fight them. He doesn't want to torture them. So, and now with that, we're skipping to book 4. Book 3 also pretty generic. The gang gets Heavy out of Siberia. Soldier meets Heavy's sister, and Scout and Spy get added to the group as well. So, the main reason why I skipped to book 4 is because it also catches you up on a decent chunk of book 2. So it opens up with Pyro and Pauling's perspective from the 2-4 incident as Demo Man and Soldier split up from the main group. So it shows the pair of them going off to find the administrator following the coordinates left to Pauling. So the administrator then kind of just says, oh, hey, yeah, no, I don't have time for you to waste trying to go get everyone. Just go do your job now. The administrator just gives in. She's nice. She basically says that Pauline does a good job. She's kind. Which the administrator is not kind. In the game, the administrator is what one can only describe as a sadistic jerk that wants everyone dead. Like, she mocks you when you fail, and then when whenever you succeed, she sounds like almost like she sounds like a devil that laughs at a person when they don't read the fine print. But she's being kind. Now, the context of her message, or immediately after, I should say, of her kindness, she mentions that out of the thousands of tons of Australium in the world, less than 1,000 pounds are left in existence, and that Pauling needs to basically get anyone left that they can in time and find that Australium. Which this Australium is the main point of I would really say even the main point of modern TF2 stories, at least with the comic books and the main gameplay story for Man vs. Machine. But there's a lot more to it than that, and I will explain on that later. So this is the first main continuous stakes. Every other issue generally gets resolved in one single issue of the comic. And then also flash forward, not even flash, I guess flash forward, I don't know, to Zana and Soldier, and Zana is Heavy's sister. The pair of them are now dating, and they're at a submarine dock. And Spy's overseeing them. Basically, he catches them trying to kiss while they should be planning. And he calls the pair morons. Soldier then proceeds to say, quickly, Zana, be racist. Zana spouts such profanities that it gets censored. TF2 does not censor, mind you. In games, the characters are blatantly racist towards each other. Mainly more so as like a insult, kind of, not genuine racism. It's more so a case of like, hey, I hate you, what can I find about you to insult you? Kind of thing. Such as Soldier saying that Scotland is not a real country or other things. But it's just, the fact that it had to get censored is crazy. So, after Zana's racism, the trio just walks into the base and finds out, everyone is not, like, there's nothing wrong. Despite that, Soldier and Zana snap a random dude's neck, which is the biggest part in the relationship by far. And then the remaining sailors just mention that their Australian supplies run dry from that mine, and then, they just tell them to basically just, oh, damn, too bad. However, Soldier is a major turning point here, with one simple action of unsnapping a man's neck. Soldier, who is very notorious for the fact that he is steadfast in his beliefs, arrogant, rude, jerk, very stupidly patriotic. The fact that he relented on something is at least a major character development for him. It's this idea of a character that is usually just, they won't take anything else in their plan, changing something that they did for the good of everyone else. So, now we go to Heavy and Scout, who are now in Australia's at Ayers Rock, I think that's how you pronounce it. And they find Mags, who is Saxon's friend from earlier, and Saxton. They find them there inside the rock itself. They realize that they were both there for trying to find the Australian that was inside. And then Saxton just realizes that it's his former mercs and just kind of recognizes them. Whereas Mags just insults Scout, just calling him a tiny little fully grown man, which is then referenced later on in-game as the Pitiful Man-Child poster in Carnival of Carnage, which was released 27 days after the comic. So it was likely made before, or actually probably about the same time, just given development time's fine, but... So, despite all that, over 1,000 pounds of Australian is still missing. So, Pauling and Devilman wake up knocked out. At least Pauling wakes up, but... Sniper is interrogating them, basically to figure out how the hell she found out Sniper's location in Australia. Pauling reveals that she knows Sniper's not Australian. You see, Sniper is New Zealand. Or, New Zealandish? I don't know. Basically, he's from New Zealand, which is a sunken colony, and he has the exact same, basically, backstory as Superman. Now, Sniper doesn't get emotional. In his Meet the Team video, he says that feelings are for folks who bludgeon their wives to death with golf trophies. That he does not follow feelings. But the moment he realizes that, he immediately gets very emotional and basically just asks to go there. Which when Pauling basically just reveals to him, hey, yeah, we were going there anyway, jerk. So then they all go, all the mercenaries, they all reunite with the exception of two, medic and engineer. They all go to New Zealand, under the ocean, in a tiny little submarine, or jet ski. It's never really shown how they get there. I believe it's a submarine. So, going into the lost colony of New Zealand, they find Sniper's parents inside a little sealed-off laboratory after the freaking terrible rocket that baby Mundy was put in when he was Mundy, who was Sniper, when he was put into as a baby, was put in to get launched into space so he could be free, apparently. And then it's weird, but basically that caused a hole in the dome of Atlantis, New Zealand, which flooded the town, which was the original reason why they moved under the water, is because Sniper's dad had basically a vision that the Earth would, there'd be issues with the Earth and that they would only be safe if they built a dome underwater. They became broke because they spent all their money trying to build the dome, and then they set up their civilization. And then the dad basically says, hey, we need to go back up. Something bad's going to happen down here. And then what do you know? The Sniper floods the entire thing because it's baby rocket. But yeah, Sniper finds his parents, and then they're excited to see him. They're surprised. Sniper is massively shocked. to find them. And then, surprise, surprise, they reveal, hey, there's just a giant Australian rocket down here that they've been using just as decoration, which was where most of the Australium in the world is. It's all in that rocket. So all the mercs need to do is just take that rocket. So, what do they do? Nothing. Sniper's mom just steals the giant Australian rocket and goes to space. Actually succeeding this time, but she gets to space and you can't even see her drinking wine. That blows another hole inside the only sealed room left in New Zealand, causing it to flood. So, everyone's kind of panicking. And then bang. Sniper gets shot in the chest because the Team Fortress Classic merc showed up. Because if the story wasn't convoluted enough already, even with my narration being kind of annoying or skipping around, we have another team to introduce. The Team Fortress Classic mercs. So, and there's another twist. Medic is with them. However, he is a trained medical professional, so kind of not a big surprise that he went out and found a job. The main surprise is that he sided with the mercs by betraying them. Or TFC mercs, I should say. That's the end of number 4. Number 5, Old Wounds, is very straightforward. So we start out, we go to Greg Gravelco, where TFC Heavy is explaining that there was no Australium there, and, Greyman is very disappointed, which is about the main point where it's very helical with the main line, to where it's like they have very specific points where they overlap, and this is one of them, towards where Greyman takes over Manco after taking out Saxon Hale. And then from there, once he took over Manco, he basically wanted to get all the Australium in the world, and that's what Man vs. Machine is, you defending Australium and facilities. Technically, he doesn't take over Manco there. He has his own company, but it's convoluted. But from here, we already get some development of Greyman, to where he basically, from just being he killed his brothers and now he's evil in the in the games, I'm going insane. He is now this, he has motivation other than just money and gravel. He has reasons why he wants to do all of this stuff, not just, hey, give me thing. He has give me thing plus all this other stuff plus emotional reasons. So, from there, Team Fortress Classic Heavy agrees that the TF2 mercenaries are going to get interrogated, and that he thinks he should maybe have some information out within a reasonable amount of time. So it's then cut to the TFC Pyro, who I will be referring to by her name of B, B-E-A, I think that's how you pronounce it, B, or Bia. She's interrogating Soldier, and then Soldier, in his confidence saying that you'll have to torture the information out of me, accidentally lets it loose to B that Pauling knows the administrator's location. And then Zana is right there next to him, basically says, hey, I will take the torture instead of Soldier for now. And then right before B is about to torture them both, the TFC Heavy basically just tells her to start torturing Greyman. Because fun, I think that's kind of obvious that, it's not the best idea to hire someone that is 5 times taller than you and can pick you up and just crumple you and then take over. So, the other thing is, the TFC Heavy yanks out something from Grey's spine. which I will also get into later. And that yanking causes the old man to crumple to the ground. So, while they're all being tortured, right after the heavy lot leaves, and right before Zana's about to get tortured, he uses the glass shard to dislocate, let's say, her hand, much in the similar way that Soldier's hand got dislocated earlier, because she is currently handcuffed to a pipe. She then proceeds to steal Bee's drill, knocks it to the ground, pull the pin on one of Bee's napalm grenades, chucks it in, and then pops on Bee's gas mask, or hazmat head, I don't even know what to call it. And then you just see a frame of her expanding like a balloon, then just falling to the floor like a deflated balloon. So, Zana is a really important character. Basically, not only is she dating Soldier, she's basically Soldier, but his girlfriend. It's effectively, I don't even know how to describe it. It's basically she comes in and she is his yang. Wait, she's the yang to his yin. Basically, the pair of two, the two are inseparable. You effectively can't have one without the other now. They have real development of each other. It's not a case of, oh, it's like, it's not terribly written. It's actually like there are reasons for it, not great ones, but there are reasons there. So Gray, seeing as he doesn't have much left to live, asks to speak to Pauling. And then now in a prison cell, Demoman's liver just quits. I don't mean it fails. It just walks out. It just stops working. I won't say stops working. It basically quite literally decides to resign. Let me put it that way. I think it technically, like, the liver itself talks and says that it resigns. To which Demoman orders his heart to investigate his liver, his lungs prevent the liver from exiting via the rectum. And now one might think, what the hell is going on? Has Demoman been drugged? No. Demoman just had water. Because Demoman is a massive alcoholic. That's part of his character, is he is a drunk Demoman. All the damn time he is drunk. Now, the issue with that is that it's much like anything. It's withdrawal. But it's showing this... Basically, it's giving the character a weakness. First of all, which is great storytelling, in my opinion, because it's subtle enough that it's like, oh, hey, you can kind of put two and two together. And then the comedic way of they just say, oh, yeah, no, he just had solid food, is just perfect for showing, oh, yeah, no, this is his weakness and withdrawal. It's a great way to add some depth to the character while being blunt, but not too blunt. So then Heavy breaks in to the cell, frees Pauling, and then, joke's on you, it's the TFC spy. Because Pauling accidentally let slip where the administrator was, which is, not good at all, mind you. And then, while that's going on, just Zana and Soldiers punch the TFC demo and TFC spy. They just, obviously, together, they kill them. And now, this is a real point of development. Pauling early on, basically in issue 2, she kills a dude, and I wouldn't say she kills him. She monologues to a dude who then dies. But the dude died like 2 seconds in, and she just quit. Here, she monologues to Gray, whose lungs quite literally fall out the hole in his back. But mind you, she had his attention. That's the best way I can describe it. Is she has attention. She was monologuing. She was making points, and then Gray just died. But the important thing is that this is Miss Pauling. She doesn't really say more than what's needed. So the fact that she had a monologue is unheard of, to say the least. And it means that there's passion behind it. Is adding I know I keep saying this, it's adding depth to the character. It's adding motivation. It's adding desire. Because someone that barely speaks and then goes on a monologue, there's something special behind that monologue. We then immediately go to somewhere else in the facility, where we see Medic, who is now with the body of Sniper, manages to resurrect Sniper. This is a common thing that can occur. It's happened before. It's a thing you can very much so do in the games, in Man vs. Machine, where you just resurrect people on the spot. But also the idea of like using a medicine gun to heal people from seemingly impossible injuries is the entire idea behind Medic. It's also in his Meet the Team video. But it just adds like a little bit of, yes, scale to know like just how powerful it is that you can revive someone that died 12 hours ago. When usually at least bodily like reattachment, which I would assume would be the closest thing you could get theoretically to resurrection, like true like gunshot resurrection, is like an hour, maybe 3 hours at most, assuming it's not cold, which, seeing as Medic was on jet ski, I assume it's not cold at all. But Sniper, Mr. Mundy himself, realizes that he knows what happens when he dies. He has nothing to fear. He's seen both his adoptive parents, who I think he likes more. It's kind of implied that he likes them a hell of a lot more. He's seen his real parents, and then he's seen his adoptive parents in heaven, which God is canon to TF2. It's very strange. There's a whole backstory to it. But basically, Sniper sees his parents up in heaven and basically just realizes, hey, I've got nothing to fear. I haven't killed enough bad people yet. I can't die. So he basically just gives up his fear of death. And this, like, mind you, he's still, like, he may be a professional hitman, but he is still it's part of that word, it's hitman. He is still human. But now he no longer has, like, the intrinsic fear of death that comes with being a human. And now, the TFC heavy walks in, realizes that the dude they killed is back alive and is pissed, slams some boxes against the wall, which causes some shrapnel to shatter all around, one of which hits Archimedes, Medic's pet bird. And then pissed, Medic agrees with a very, very, very quickly resurrected Archimedes that Medic should, in fact, saw through your bones, which is just a straight reference to the game where that's, if you do a taunt with the Uber saw, he says that I want to saw through your bones. And B, kind of telling about Medic, because Medic is the Medic. Like, yes, he says like the healing is not as rewarding as the harming, but he still heals. Like, the main reason why he does like the harming to him is at least like he's a medic for a reason. Let me put it that way. There's a reason why he's a medic and not, out there carrying like a nuke or something. He still wants to heal. So the fact that he just decides that he is going to just saw through someone in a brutal fashion, it's kind of like a snapping moment, almost. And now, we're skipping Comic 6 because it contains too much that I want to discuss. And it also leaves more questions than answers, and it'll be kind of confusing. Well, even though it's already confusing enough skipping around. And this is already very, very long, at 45 minutes already. I might need more gameplay footage, but... So. It opens up 7 years after the events of Comic 6. And we are now... Oh yeah, also I should mention, by the time this came out in early 2024, it had been 7 years after the last comic. Like, actually just straight up 7 years. Also, 6 years after the last update. Actually, 7 years, technically. 7 years since the last major update of the Jungle Inferno update. So, this, mind you, this is like this is a major deal that came out. So, Marasmus is now in the Badlands Correctional Facility, which is, Badlands is just the main, like, generic setting for TF2. It's like, oh, whereas Upward, it's either in Australia or the Badlands, whereas Frontier, it's either Australia or the Badlands. If you don't know where a map is, and it's not, you can't really tell based on geography, it's either the Badlands, Arizona, or Badlands, New Mexico, or it's in Australia. It's one of the two. But Marasmus is in his cell because he got sent there for debt. Because Marasmus is famous for getting into debt to mafias. So Zana and Soldier break into the correctional facility with their. They just break into the correctional facility into specifically Marasmus' cell. And then their young daughter, Georgia Washington Doe, snaps Marasmus' bodyguard's neck. And then they also reveal to Marasmus, who is very pissed, that they basically just give him like the backstory of the past 7 years because Marasmus got sent to jail. Marasmus got framed for the murder of Tom Jones. So Marasmus has been in jail for every past comic except the first. But we then get to see it immediately basically just flip to 7 years after the events of the prison, 7 years before the prison break. That the Team Fortress is basically just celebrating the generic defeat of the Team Fortress Classic Mercs. It's kind of obvious that they were going to get defeated because they can't really kill off the main characters of the modern game. It would leave them nowhere to go. Especially when the end of the 6-1 says to be finished in issue 7. But they're celebrating. Soldiers ask Heavy if he can get Heavy's blessing to marry Zana. And Heavy says no. They do not care. Heavy points out that Soldier is not financially stable. He doesn't have a job now because he's back to being unemployed because they mostly solved what they wanted. So how the hell is Zana going to take care of them? Not Zana. How the hell is Soldier? I'm going insane. I truly am this time. You see, Soldier has a gold cave. However, it's not gold. When Soldier pulls a little bit out of his pockets, Pauline realizes it's Australian. Soldier has the last Australian left. At least in his cave. So, what does he do? Nothing. Pauling just takes it and then tries to get everyone home, but Saxon, who is there, steals the damn plane. So the entire team just steals a very, very tiny water plane. And then we finally get to see Dell, the TF2 engineer, Dell Conager, who is sitting at the team, I guess, just purple, I guess, because the neutral team is purple. Basically at the purple HQ the entire time. He is sitting out on a balcony when he sees the team's plane just crash into a canyon. However, mind you, he doesn't really care because he knows them. He knows they'll live. Plus, they have medic. If any one of them dies, he will literally just fill them with blood and they'll live. So, you're probably wondering, why has that engineer been absent the entire time? Because engineer, the Conager family in general, starting with Radigan Conager, the first engineer, back in the mid-1800s, back when the Redmond and Plutarch were first fighting, and they first hired mercenaries. Radigan Conager built a machine. He built it for Plutarch, where it was a machine which, when strapped to a person, can be used in conjunction with Australium to increase one's life. And that's how Redmond and Plutarch have been able to make it from early to mid 1800s all the way to the 1960s. And now, why did Redmond also have one? Because a random woman named Helen basically asked Radigan that, hey, if you make a Plutarch machine, make Redmond one. But I will talk about Helen later. Just remember that name. So, basically, the group goes into the lobby, realizes, well, I won't say realizes, basically they go into the lobby of the team building, and there's a giant statue in there. Has, in like a pentagon, it has A, B, C, D, and at the very bottom there's just a dangling F, which are Team Ajax, Unknown, Charlie, Delta, and Epsilon, if I remember correctly. We don't know what Team B is. But at the very bottom is Team Fortress, who are the bottom of the barrel. So bottom of the barrel, in fact, that the secretary working the front desk doesn't recognize them and doesn't want to let them in. They are only saved because engineer basically comes up to the railing, because it's a 2-story building, and basically just says, hey, they're with me. And he takes Pauling to the employee break room to basically have a discussion that he knows. He doesn't know what the administrator's plan is. But that because Pauling found more Australium, it's gone to shit. Everything goes to shit when there's Australium involved. The idea of theoretical infinite life, or very, very prolonged life, where you can basically convert precious metal into life. It's effectively like you could pay for more time in life. You could pay $5 and congrats, you now live for 5 years. Except it's that way of gold and a very rare mineral. But it's also revealed that Team Fortress is in fact the bottom of the barrel. Their whole idea was that they're basically there to make a distraction while the real teams go out and do the work. But whoever expects a distraction to get the job done? No one. It's a distraction. The idea is it's just meant to just draw people's attention. It's not meant to actually go do the real thing that's going on in the background. But it's also revealed that Pauling's first name, who has been absent for 13 years, not 12 years at this point, 12 years, is Flo. Probably Florence, but we just know Flo. Pauling then asks Dell where the administrator is. He points to a door, and then Dell doesn't follow when she walks to it. He says that his father didn't go down there, his dad didn't go down there, and he figures that they both have their reasons. He feels guilty for it. He knows that basically it's his own fault, or I wouldn't say his own fault, but basically he knows the monster he has maintained, and he doesn't want to maintain it anymore. So, Pauling goes down. She takes the rest of the mercs with her. This entire time, there's kind of a will there, don't even want to really call it a will they, won't they, but it's effectively that with Scout and Pauling. On the way down, Scout makes up his mind. He realizes that, hey, basically, when he was back in Siberia, there was a miniature version of himself that was pretty much just saying, hey, you just keep wearing you down. Scout realizes that that's probably not the best idea. There's probably more women out there in the world that, just would just like him, that you won't have to wear down, which is already a fucked up idea. But and then he even says that it's just that he's moving on. And then Pauling, to her credit, basically just says, you know what, and I quote this now from the comic. This is, I don't even know what panel this is. It's just one of the later ones. It's you know what, Scout, those 80 million other women in the world, statistically speaking, a lot of them are probably way hotter than me. And then they basically they stay friends, effectively. Like, good friends, mind you, but not romantic at all. And now they enter the lair of the administrator. They all agree to go in, and then bam, we don't get to know. We do, but not yet. Although I will skip, for now, the reason why we don't get to know. So, we basically see the administrator, who looks like I want to say mid-30s woman, talking to this ragged, just husk of a person, effectively. You just imagine a person, arms cut off, skin like not even wrinkled. It's just all sense of color has just faded away, and with dozens of tubes just strapped into them. So, from there, basically, we see the administrator just sit down, open up some files, and start to read, and that admits that she's been at it. Her and the just dude stuck in the tube, I guess. I don't even know what to call it. They've just been at it ever since they met. And then she admits that she doesn't know why they fight, which is important. And then she basically says, oh, hey, Pauling, you're here. Did you find any more? And that if she did that could change literally everything. To which Pauling says, while holding a piece of it behind her back, no. The administrator, speaking to the man, says it's been 100 years, hasn't it? making you watch your sons fail again and again. All that. Wasted time. All the while, she is rapidly aging. She basically not decompresses. Basically, in the span of what I would assume is maybe 15 seconds, she ages at least 80 years. Not 80, 60 probably. 80 years. And she says it was worth it. She collapses to the ground, holding the man out of the tube. Everyone except Dell just watches as the pair of them crumple into dust as they walk away. Pauling walks back to the engineer, basically just says, oh, hey, yeah, I know the secret now. It's over. And Dell basically just asks, oh, hey, what are you going to do with it? They basically wasn't planning on taking over the world. And that if you want his advice, basically just go take all of the Australium out of Soldier's Cave and then just sink it in the deepest trench you can find. And then as engineer is walking out, he basically says, yeah, if you keep it, you're never going to be free of it. And possibly never. To which Pauling asks, do you know any deep trenches? And then engineer just says, I might know a few. And then it's also implied that engineer quits for good. Which, good. Engie deserves some rest because he's been working on the administrator the whole time. And then it's implied because the fridge gets broken forever, like on the break room. And then it says, quote, I'm afraid the answer to that is a question for the answer to that question is a story for another time. Because this whole time, Soldier and Erasmus have been getting tortured by the Korean mafia. Oh yeah, and then the next day, Pauling and engineer came and took all the gold out of Soldier Savings Caves, and then that's why he had to borrow that money from the Korean mafia. Oh yeah, also, Soldier's hands have been untied the entire time. And Erasmus is also dead. It's Erasmus's ghost talking. The other thing, yeah, that's the funny part. So basically, someone breaks in. I won't say someone, but basically, we get to see the conclusion to Charles Darling. Saxton and Maggie basically just let him get killed by an ancient beast, which we see Saxton just looking at the head of, as Saxton fires Olivia, because Saxton basically took back the company because Olivia didn't want to fight, and then he basically just put her as like second in command, but he fires her because she's now 14. So she gets to go do whatever she wants now. It's kind of sentimental, very sweet. Saxton doesn't really care about much in life. In the games, he wants money and to punch people and things and to get trophies, but he effectively has a daughter now, and he wants to make sure she's okay, and it's really sweet. But yeah, he also quits. Saxton also quits. The two of them can basically just go get trophies by fighting things. But Heavy finds out where the Russians are being, or not Russians, where the Koreans are keeping Soldier Erasmus. breaks in through a wall, basically gets threatened, and then a red dot appears on the person's chest, on the torturer's chest. And then, basically they just said that, hey, we're going to kill a soldier if you don't pay us 12,000 won. I'm opening up a new tab now. Let me just figure that out. So, they say it's $17. Which they write off as, if they're torturing these people for $17, imagine what they would do for real money. It's $8.41 at least now. And then Soldier just puts Marasmus in a brick like he did for Tom Jones. Now, I want to go back a bit to the part I skipped over. The part where they enter the room. And you see, Helen, as you probably figured out by now, is someone we already know. This woman, Helen, opens up a door. Basically, shows up at Xenophia Man, who is the father of Edmund Plutarch. Shows up at their door basically saying, hey, I'm here for the governess job. Basically, just immediately just gets the job automatically. And then her job is to ensure that only one is left. It's a man family tradition that every other sibling just dies tragically somehow, and that one survivor becomes just a business mogul, business savant. But the thing is, there are two sons. So her job is to make the one. She is wanted to basically mold them into champions so they will effectively kill each other. She was originally going to kill them just in their sleep, but however, she decides something better. To make it so they never won. Helen is also Elizabeth, who's the one that worked for Xenophia, the governess, in Two Fort, New Mexico. And this is where we get to the game. In their will, Xenophia basically just says that, hey, I'm going to leave half the world's gravel to to each child, and then that I hope and I have faith that one of them will eventually kill the other over the gravel. And then Elizabeth admits to Xenophia on his deathbed that she lied about all of it. That there's no reason she's going to make them all fight forever. Now, she leans in and tells him why. We don't get to know. We never get to know. A year later, she basically just does her rounds, because it's now effectively her mansion. She's depressed and lonely. She just goes and, hangs herself. Gray finds her in the attic. Mind you, this is still a young Gray. This is like a 22-year-old Gray at this point, after he got carried off by eagles, fought them and killed them. She just watches her die, and then revives her using the life extension machine. which introduces her to Australia. She knows what's happening, and she knows what she has to do. So, she then reveals to basically Gray, after telling him, hey, I'll give you some, she then reveals that she's had all the Australium all this time. She goes out back and starts digging up Xenophia. The administrator, Elizabeth Helen, has been torturing Xenophia this whole time for reasons we do not know. We will never know. And worst of all, when Pauling asks, what did he do to you? She responds, you know, after all this time, I don't remember. The ending. All things need one. Everything has one. Oh, Jesus, is an hour 11. Jesus, much longer than I thought. We open at Scout's house back in the present, 7 years later. Or technically 1 week later. But this is basically a week after the after Marasmus and Soldier get freed. We see Spy rolling up to Jeremy Willis's house. There are toys in the front yard. There's a robo bike, like one of those rideable cars, and a couple trikes. Scout opens up the door, honestly looking quite a bit like Tom Jones. And he's there with his kids. Scout casually addresses him as Jeremy. Basically just says, hey, you're not here early, but, like, you know, you're the first one, like, you're the first one here, but yeah, it's fine. But it's also Scout's first time that it's ever done anything, so, yeah, you know, he thinks Spy's right on time. Scout has 8 children to Spy's surprise. And so, when Spy asks about the wife, Scout reveals that, well, none of the deadbeats' wives are in the picture at all, in the kids' lives. So, the thing is, Scout can't have a job because they burned off their fingerprints. Or Spy burnt off Scout's fingerprints. And now, Scout also reveals that he just sued Twofold because they tried to hang him, even though they were out there murdering people. This is the list of injuries according to Scout. Broke leg 6 times out there. Broke arm about a dozen. 30 concussions. Doesn't even have any kidneys left. And then one of his daughters, Tanya, her tiara broke. Spy dips down and says, Tanya, hello. When asked, Spy goes, I'm your, and stutters. Before considering that, he just goes, I'm your father's friend from work. And then Spy tells her that it's better be a princess assassin than a princess, before finally taking off his balaclava for the first time in the entire franchise and giving it to Scout's daughter. We then see everyone else rolling up. Dimmelman and his mother, along with the Islander, just hovering next to them. We can see Soldier and Zana off Georgia Washington Doe, and then General Patton Doe. We also can see in the background Heavy Sisters. We can see Sniper's van. Heavy comes in carrying a turkey. And then we also see the entire collection of pets. We get to see Archimedes with Pyro's dog. We get to see Sniper with his, I assume, girlfriend now, because it's Soldier's sister, and they, not Soldier, it's another one of Heavy sisters, and they think they're dating. It's never confirmed, but implied somewhat. Pyro teaches the kids, and Tanya, now wearing a balaclava, that how fire works by lighting the fireplace. We get to see Spy drinking, as usual. We get to see a turkey, a mega turkey, courtesy of Miss P from Bonk Farms, which is a reference, by the way. And then one last person at the door. The next shot is a picture of the door. It opens up. Jeremy's there. He says, "Oh, hey, it's you. Get in here, you big dummy." Now we're just starting. I even saved you a seat. You know, I'm real glad you can make it. We've been through a lot, you and us, and I. Well, it's good to know you stuck around after everything we've been through. All right, come on, let's eat before this gets embarrassing. Miss Pauline bought us a turkey, but just remember, we couldn't have done any of this without you. In this shot, everyone's here. We have Jangle's, we have Space Monkey, we have Pyro's dog, which Chekhov, because he's there. Pyro has grown. Pyro still loves fire, yes. But I think it's that Pyro has found another source of color in his world. It's this idea that what Pyro previously saw as his only source of joy is now not his only source, and he's found a better source that he can enjoy more. We see Archimedes standing on top of Islanders Hill. We see Ghost Tom Jones and Ghost Marasmus singing. We see Soldier grinning with his kids and Zana. We see Heavy with his mom and his sisters. We see Mac there ready to cut the turkey with his bone saw. We see Spy with a glass of wine and Dell also with a glass of wine. We see Demo Man there with his mom, just loving the little kids that Soldier has. And they really couldn't have done this without any of this without us. We cut to the African Veldt. Saxton and Maggie. Well, I would say this is now. This is the African Veldt 2025. Or 2024, technically. This is one of the few times, I believe this is the only time, when TF2 references the current. They're fighting cheetahs, much like they were fighting panthers. Their only options, according to Mags, are they're going to have to fight them all or jump off the cliff. Saxton extends his hand to Mags and says, "You want to live forever." The end. So, the ending. What makes a legend? Death. The absence of a legend is what makes them a legend. It's the fact that they did something great with such short time that makes that such short time so impactful. It doesn't matter whatever you do, if you live forever, then it's just a blip. But if you spend your life dedicated to something, you do that and die a legend, You become a legend because you spent your life doing it. You didn't just spend a fraction of it. And it's this idea of, would you rather go out with a bang by jumping off a cliff, or slowly pitter-patter away into the dust? Which is truly symbolic of all the characters, where they didn't want to live forever. They didn't want to use the machine to live forever. It's better to die as heroes than live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Which is why it's better for TF2 to die out as a game, as the legendary hero shooter it is, than to see it go on become some terrible, horrible game. The characters themselves grow. They display feelings much more than they do in the game. But it's the idea of they've come to terms with their finality, and so they're trying to make the most of life. As I think we all are. So, that's it.